Welcome to Book Banter with me, your host, Dianne Burkhart. I hope you will join me every Wednesday as we explore all things to do with, well, books. Let's get on with our show today. Hello, my happy people. Today is May 28th, 2025, and I am so happy today. Not only do I have a fantastic author for you, as always, but we are actually having a really nice thunderstorm here in Germany, which is kind of rare. We have rainstorms all the time, but we don't get that thunder with it. And it really kind of makes me miss home because I'm from Kansas and we have some great thunderstorms there. And so this is the kind of weather that I really want to get all of my work done so I can go grab a book and curl up and listen to the rainstorm and read with a hot cup of tea. And I'm just really wanting to get to do that today. That's one of my favorite things. Let us know in the comments, what is the perfect reading weather for you? Because for me, it's this. It's a nice thunderstorm going on outside, not too violent, no tornado warnings or anything, but just some nice constant rain with a little low thunder in the background. I love this. It's perfect cozy mystery time. So what kind of perfect weather do you like to grab a book and read to? If you like to read something that's a nice, romantic, feel-good kind of story, you're going to love today's author. Not only is she just a fantastic person to chat with, but she is quite the acclaimed author. Her Gull Island series has really taken off and grabbing attention from so many different readers' polls. You are going to love her. You're going to love her books. So let's not waste any more time with my blather about the weather. Let's get right to today's episode. Please welcome to Book Banter with Dianne Burkhart, Jennifer Vido. The way that I like to start my shows is just to have our guest tell our listeners who you are and what you do.
First of all, thank you so much for having me today. I am the author of the Gull Island Sweet Romance series. As a book lover, I not only am an author, but I am a columnist. I write the Jen Jules author interview column on freshfiction.com. It comes out every Friday. I get to interview New York Times bestselling authors and up-and-coming stars. When I'm not either writing or interviewing authors, I am the executive director of a legal nonprofit in my community.
What is it that you like about doing the author interviews?
You know, it's very interesting to talk to authors about what their inspiration for their writing, what their inspiration for series, what their inspiration for their characters, and to be able to delve into the mind of a New York Times bestselling author and even up-and-coming stars just fascinates me because we all come to the table through a different path. And to be able to talk about what their road to publication looked like compared to somebody else, I just find it's very interesting.
That's the same thing for me. And one of the things that I absolutely do love, it doesn't matter if somebody spent 20 years working in marketing, or if they have done journalism, if they are a lawyer, if they are a doctor, if there's somebody who just started writing right out of high school and happened to hit the right note and get a career, they all seem to say two things that are extremely alike. One, the easiest part of the process for them is writing the story. The hardest part for them is the marketing.
Right. And you know, the interesting thing is, the difference is between a New York Times bestselling author and someone who's not an author at all is that they took the time to sit down and put the words on the page. Mm-hmm. So you have to have that drive, you have to have that determination, and you have to have the conviction to make it happen. And I find that just fascinating.
And you also have to have that thick skin to be able to take a lot of rejection.
You sure do, because this is not an easy career path, and there are a lot of highs and there are a lot of lows, and you just have to learn how to navigate them.
And speaking of highs, you've had quite a few.
Well, I've been very fortunate. My first book in this series, Serendipity by the Sea, was named Best First Romance Novel by the New Jersey Romance Writers Golden Leaf contest. So right out of the gate, we had a big bang. And I was so excited about that distinction and that honor. And then the Baltimore Magazine named me best local author last year, which was phenomenal. I also received an honorable mention from the Baltimore Magazine. So it was a very good 2024.
Do you think that it's beneficial to have such great recognition on your first book out? Is it easier to go forward, or does it make it harder because then you have such a high mark to keep hitting?
I think it makes it easier because when you write a series, the first thing you think about is, will the readers like it? Will they like the characters? Will they like the locale that I have created? So to be able to get some recognition that my fictional island of Gull Island might be a great place to visit. But it was good, right? Because it inspired me to write book 2 and book 3. Of course, when book 1 came out, book 2 was already written and we were in edits for book 2. And now that book 2 is out, we're in edits for book 3. So it just gives you that inspiration and that little extra pat on the back to keep going. Because being a writer, it's a very lonely profession.
Yeah.
Because it's just you and the laptop. So it's nice to have a little inspiration from different areas to keep going and to keep pursuing your dream.
Well, and I think especially the Baltimore Magazine accolade should be quite energizing because that one was actually voted on by readers.
Yes, it was. It was voted by readers, which was really phenomenal that I was able to garner that, especially since it was my first romance book that I'd ever written. I did have a series of it was the Piper O'Donnell Socialite Mysteries that I wrote, and there are 3 books in that series. So it wasn't my first book that I had written, but it was my first romance that I had written.
And besides your writing, you also spent time working as a spokesperson for the Arthritis Foundation.
Yes, I am a former national spokesperson for the Arthritis Foundation. I was diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis when I was 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
And yes, and I currently have 2 artificial ankles and an artificial hip. So I know what it's like to live with a chronic disease. And so it was an honor to be able to go around the country to speak on behalf of the Arthritis Foundation. I had been a volunteer with the Arthritis Foundation since my college years at Vanderbilt University. And it just was a natural fit for me to be able to talk about what it's like navigating life living with a chronic disease.
Well, and if I read this right on your website, it was saying that you kind of came into that position because of reading with Ripa.
Well, it was funny. So when I had my first ankle replacement and I was laid up at the time, I loved to read, of course. And reading with Ripa was, I don't know if you remember, Kelly Ripa had a book club, and you could write a letter to, this is when we wrote letters. We weren't doing emails at the time. So I wrote a letter to try to get on the show, to be in the audience. And she liked it. And I got a call from the producer saying, we got your letter. We'd love for you and a few friends to come to the studio. So I did. And it was so exciting to be in the studio audience. But that day, Regis was absent. Andy Richter was co-hosting with her. She had a roundtable discussion. And they asked me, the producer said, hey, would you be interested in sitting at the table with Kelly to discuss the book? And I said, sure, I would love to sit at the table with Kelly Ripa. It was Kelly Ripa and Lori Gelman's wife, and it was Meg Cabot. Meg Cabot was the author that they were promoting that day. And it was a wild experience to be able to sit there and be on the TV and talk about reading, which I loved. So that's kind of what catapulted me into my kind of online presence, if you will, with Reading with Ripa. And then I was able to, with the Arthritis Foundation, just to do some things in New York City. And I was featured in the New York Times, and I was featured with Evander Holyfield. We went on a tour to promote the Arthritis Foundation. So it was really lovely to be able to combine my love of reading and also my love for the Arthritis Foundation and all the great things that they do for people like me who live with a chronic disease.
And you were also an exercise trainer?
I am 3 days a week. I teach a water exercise class It used to be sponsored by the Arthritis Foundation, but they no longer have that where I am. So it's just called a water exercise program. It's a warm water therapy one. And I do that 3 days a week. So I do that before I head into the office. And it's great because I get to be with seniors who love to come out and get some exercise early in the morning. And I get to take care of my body as well.
You lost me at early in the morning.
We are in the pool by 8 o'clock. So
I was there for all the rest of it until you said early in the morning.
Yeah, it is an early morning, but the good thing is you get your exercise right out of the way and you can, continue on your day.
See, I'm one of those people that I could go do something like that at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm wide awake then.
Oh yeah. Not me, not me.
Now, with your experience as being a journalist and an author and being a spokesperson, have you ever thought about writing a book about your experience with arthritis and the Arthritis Foundation?
I have thought about that in the past, and most recently it has come to the forefront. So I think that might be something on my plate in the near future. It has been a wild ride, honestly, to be able to combine my love of reading with my advocacy because, people don't understand kids get arthritis too. I was 8 years old when I was diagnosed with arthritis, and it doesn't define who I am. It's a part of who I am, but it's something that you can't ignore because it impacts my life in different ways, whether it be with exercise or activities that I can and cannot do because of the limitations of my artificial joints. But I've always been a fighter, and I've always learned to navigate around the obstacles that life throws at you. And that's just how I roll.
One of the things that people with what would be considered like hidden chronic issues, that adds like a whole other dimension to having to deal with a serious health issue. Whenever people can't see what you're dealing with,
right?
Sometimes you can't get them to understand that you are having a problem.
I do have a handicap sticker for parking, and the looks I get sometimes and the comments people say, and I just want to say, if you could just walk one day in my shoes, you'd understand. But I don't focus on that. It's like I said, it's a part of who I am, but it does affect my writing career too, because some days when my hands are really swollen, I don't get as many words on the page as I would like. And that's just what happens. So I just have to figure out a way around it. I try the best that I can, but some days are good and some days are bad. And I think what happens is when I do have good things happen in terms of my writing career, it makes it that much sweeter.
Yeah.
Because of the obstacles that I had to face to get to that point. And everybody has their struggles in life. I'm no different than anybody else. It's just, I think how you face these challenges is what makes you the person that you are.
Well, and one of the things I always tell people that with my own health issues, there's nothing that I can't do. I just have to find my way of doing it.
Exactly. I love that. And it is so true.
What was it that you actually did whenever you first started your career?
I first was a French teacher. I went to Vanderbilt University with the intention of retiring at the ripe old age of 65 as a French teacher. But, life throws you curves. And for me, it was an ankle replacement. And I couldn't stand anymore, for an 8-hour day and walk up and down the hall and do duties as a teacher, which were my responsibilities. So I had to pivot. When that happened, I love French and I love being a teacher, and I do get to be a teacher still because I'm in the pool, like I mentioned, 3 mornings a week. So I still get to teach. It's just in a different capacity. I always think God says, yes, you're going to do that, but you're going to do it in a different way than you ever thought. And it's true. So then I became a book reviewer, and from the book reviewing, I became a columnist, but that was kind of like my side gig, right? So that wasn't what was paying the bills or, contributing to our family in a financial way. And so I got a job here it's a local nonprofit. We are a legal nonprofit. We assist people who are facing legal issues, and we provide pro bono services. And I came aboard as part-time as part of the marketing team, and within 6 months, I became the executive director. I was very fortunate. Our executive director left. And with my experience with the Arthritis Foundation and the nonprofit realm, it just kind of was a perfect fit. And I became the executive director. And I have been the executive director since 2016, and I am still here. And what I love about our organization is that we are right in the heart of our community. We help people at their vulnerable time in their lives, and I get to be a part of it. We're growing. We just moved to a new office. We now have 5 staff members, and it's great. So during the day, I get to head this legal nonprofit, and at night, I'm a romance writer. The best of both worlds, right?
Plus, it's like the things that you are so involved in are so rewarding personally.
And I think that attributes to like my writing. Like I think you can definitely see it in my writing because I take little snippets of different parts of my life, whether it's been in the nonprofit sector, or if it's teaching an arthritis class with seniors, or if it's just being a mom, and being a wife, all of that together, being a sister, being a daughter. I feel that every part of your life together contributes to what you put on the page. And that translates into characters because, as writers, we take little bits of here and there to create our characters and our locales and our whole stories. So I think it's all a part of who I am and what I write.
Now, since you mentioned being a mom, I know you have grown kids. Have they read any of your books?
I honestly, my older son has read my books. I'm not sure if my younger son has or not, but as my husband always says, they've lived through these stories, so they know them front to back. I really don't think either one need to crack the spine to find out what's happened because, as a writer, those characters become part of our lives.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I think I should just add them to our Christmas card because I have talked about them for so long that my whole family knows who's who, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
they can tell you if I name the character, they know which book it is. So I'm not too upset about that. Although I have to say, it's funny you should mention that because I write sweet romances and I write that for a reason. A lot of people write books that have a higher heat level, so to speak, in their books. But for me, I wanted my kids to be able to pick up my book and be like, my mom wrote this and I'm not blushing of some of the things that she put in this
Yeah.
book. And then also, I love Hallmark movies. That's my thing. That's my jam. And so I write what I love, and that's Hallmark. So if you pick up my book, you'll think you're in a Hallmark story. So, that's my goal. Hopefully, one day one of my books will get picked up, and I can see it on the Hallmark Channel.
Some of the authors that I've spoken to who have very spicy books, they often will do it under another name and don't even tell their family about that book series.
That's one way to do it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they have other book series that they have their name on that they tell their family about, but they're spicy ones they kind of keep
Right.
hidden.
That's a good way to do it. That's smart.
Since you do have a background in journalism, do you think that that helps you to write tighter when you go to do your books?
I do. It takes me a very long time. It takes me a year to write a book, which, is pretty typical for authors. But I think I'm slower because I'm very intentional with the word on the page. A lot of times it's like, just get the words on the page and then you can go back and edit. But I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. So I like to take my time about what I put on the page. So it does take me a little bit longer to get there. And I do think that's because I'm so conscious about my writing.
And how diligent do you plot your stories before you actually get into the book?
When I had my first series, I was a pantser and I just flew and the characters took on the life of their own. And sometimes the stories reflected that they didn't have that arc. I love the stories, don't get me wrong. It's just, I think it needed a little more structure along the way. So for this series, I outlined all 3 books before I wrote a synopsis for all 3 before I started writing the book. So I knew where I was going and what I was doing. Did I stick to it 100%? Absolutely not. But at least I had a trajectory of where I was going. And I think that really helped with the arc of the story and the characters. And I just thought it was stronger writing, definitely.
Well, and I've spoken to some authors that they are very strict, that their outlines are almost as long as their book. And they stick to that and they're just very diligent about that. And I personally cannot even conceptualize how they do that.
Yeah, that's a lot. I did for this series, I do break it down chapter by chapter so that I make sure that I hit the high points. And then what I do also is when I get done writing each chapter, I have a separate notebook and I write down the high points of what happened in that chapter. The specific things like maybe eye color or names or just things that I want to make sure that I get correct throughout the rest of the manuscript. And I find that helps with my writing, and my writing is a little bit tighter too because all those little details, they don't get lost. Because when I'm on chapter 16, I'd like to go back to chapter 2 and say, okay, now who is she with? And does she
Yeah.
know him or does she not know him? So that has been very helpful to do.
I actually have a notebook for each book that I'm writing, and I put little things in there like that to help me remember because I have really bad short-term memory. So I can write in one chapter that somebody had brown hair and blue eyes, and then I go to the next one and they've got blonde hair and green eyes. And it's like, wait a minute. I
Well,
need to
and
go
that's
back and check that again.
right. And especially when you write a series. When you write a series, you have to make sure that they have the same color eyes in book 1 as they did in book 3. So that's why I find those notebooks really come in handy. And also I have like a character list that tells me like what page I first saw them, what's the description of them, and who they are, just so I can keep the characters straight. And I find that to be very helpful.
Oh, yeah. It absolutely saved me whenever I wrote a historical fiction cliffhanger series as Stephen
Mhm.
Burkhart. I realized when I was doing book 5, I'm like, wait a minute, was this character's name Jennifer or not? And I went back to the
Right.
other books and her name was Martha in the earlier books. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I have this notebook.
They come in handy, especially when you do that, when you're fact checking.
Oh, yeah. And especially, like you said, when you're doing a series and you're not doing it constantly, especially if you're doing projects in between where you have
Mm,
different characters that you're working with and go
yes,
back to that one. Oh my
yes,
gosh, it is such a great idea to have that.
it is very helpful.
Have you ever tried any plotting software?
I have not. Have you?
I do have one that is Plotter that was recommended to me by several authors, and I've kind of used it. It has so many great elements to it that I think will be fantastic once I get it down, but I still need more practice with it.
Hmm. Yeah, I've always been fascinated with it, but I just haven't used it.
This thing gives you like these great timelines, and you can do character cards off of the timeline so that you can see when that character came into the story. And it has character books where you have the description of each character that you can copy over into your timelines and things like that. It's really got a lot of great elements to it. I just need more practice with it.
Hmm. And which one was that you said?
Plotter, it's Plottr.
Oh, and do you write your book on it as well? Like, do you write the book within that program?
I don't know if you can do that. I haven't checked into that because I have Vellum that I write my story in. I
Okay,
just bought the plotter to actually plot the book.
got it. Interesting.
So you have the Piper O'Donnell Socialite Mystery Series and your Gull Island books 1 and 2. Do you plan to have more books in that series soon?
So, Simplicity by the Sea is the third and final book in the series, which in edits with right now. I'm hoping it will be out by the end of summer. It just depends on when we get through the edit process. Once we get done, it's usually about 4 months after that. My publisher, publishes the books. So we'll see. I wrote it as the end of the series. However, I left a window open just in case I wanted to add. So what I love about it, it's kind of full circle. You meet Kate and Knox in the first book, and they play a central role at the beginning of the third book in Simplicity by the Sea. So it does kind of close some things and finishes some relationships so that you feel like you're satisfied. But like I said, I do leave a door open at the end just in case.
And it's the Gull Island series. Serendipity by the Sea is the first one, and then Serenity by the Sea is book 2. And that's the most recent publication that you have, right?
Yes, Serenity by the Sea is the most recent one, and then Simplicity by the Sea will be the last one. And I wrote the titles very similar, by the sea, by the sea, by the sea, for each one of those so that the reader could identify that the book would be part of the series.
Hmm.
And the titles kind of, they have a rhythm. It makes it easy for them to be recognized as part of the same world. And each title reflects the core theme of the love story. So Serendipity by the Sea is the second chance romance, where Serenity by a Sea is enemies to lovers journey. And then the final one, Simplicity by the Sea, it's a heartwarming friends to lovers tale.
Did you have any say in the cover art on these?
I'm with the Wild Rose Press, and we can request a handful of elements that can be on the cover, but the actual design, no, I do not have a say in that.
I actually really love the covers.
Thank you. I do too. I think each one gets better and better. And I do think they capture the essence of the story. And I love that they have the Gull Island insignia on the bottom so that the
Hmm.
reader can identify that it's part of the series. I love the font. And I feel like I could just walk for Serendipity, could just walk up those steps, and Serenity, just hop over that fence to go in that nice cottage. And we haven't revealed the cover for Simplicity yet, but it has the beach as well. And it has some wine glasses because the third story is about a wine executive so that comes to the island, and so it gives you a sneak peek of what it's about.
Oh, yeah.
And like I said, whether it's serendipity that you get together, or serenity, you need some peace and quiet, or maybe simplicity, that the simple is maybe better, I think the titles really lend to what the story is about.
Now seems like a good time for us to have you give us a synopsis of your latest book.
Book two, Serenity by the Sea, it's about a celebrity designer, and her name is Haley Maybank. And she comes to Gull Island to reinvent herself after a high profile divorce. She's lending her expertise on a renovation project. But working with the boss's son, that always comes with complications. And she has to decide if she wants to risk her professional reputation for a chance at love. Love is the last thing on her mind since, like I said, she just got out of a high profile divorce. She's a celebrity. Will Purdy, who you met in book one, if you've read Serendipity by the Sea, he is in the family business, which is Purdy and Son, and they do construction on the island, on Gull Island. And he wants to showcase his design skills for the firm's latest project. Partnering with a famous designer who has a tarnished reputation is not at the top of his list by all means. And during the process, though, he starts having a attraction for the colorful artist. But he needs to figure out, will his relationship with her tarnish the renovation, or will it allow him to complete the job? And so they both are at a crossroads. She's looking to reinvent herself, and he wants to prove himself to his father that he has what it takes to become a partner in the company.
I really like the character building that you do
Thank you.
because one of the things that I was actually laughing about, and I even marked this so I could remember this when we talked, was in the very beginning of your book. It is talking about the character Haley, that she was craving some Lowcountry food like chicken and waffles or shrimp and grits. Heck, even a dollop of pimento cheese on a buttermilk biscuit would do.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually started laughing. I'm like, oh my God, the pimento cheese, that is something that was always in our house when I was a kid. And I
Mm-hmm.
miss that so much living in
Oh,
Germany. And when
yes.
I read that bit, it's like, I just immediately love that character.
And that's the thing. Our family has visited the Low Country for over 30 years. I'm a Jersey girl, grew up in New Jersey, proud Jersey girl. I currently live in Maryland. Our family lives in Maryland, and we've been here for quite a while. But every summer we would go to the Low Country, whether it was Kiowa Island or Seabrook. Most recently, we have been vacationing on Fripp Island. I don't know if you're familiar with Fripp Island. It is
No.
a small barrier island off of Beaufort, South Carolina. And when we went there, I was just smitten. I thought, if I'm going to write a series set in the Low Country, this is where I want my inspiration to be. And the thing is about readers, as you know, you need to be geographically correct.
Mhm.
And I thought, you know what? Let's call it Gull Island, but let's be inspired by Fripp Island. So that's what I did. And what drew me to Fripp Island is that it's a coastal beauty. No other way to put it. It is a small barrier island rich with history and charm. And I think what I loved most about it is that it's so welcoming. It has like a heartbeat in their community, warm hospitality. The locals seamlessly interact with the visitors. And that's what my story is about. So for me, the common thread that weaves all three of my books together is the appreciation for tight-knit community, local coastal charm, and love. Those are the three elements that are throughout all three stories.
And I think that would be very fitting if you ever do get a deal with Hallmark movies. It
Absolutely.
just fits
So,
right in there with their whole theme.
right. Exactly.
Now is also a good time for us to do our 5 quick questions that never turn out to be quick, but I am a diehard and I will not give up.
Okay, here we go.
So, question 1, what movie can you watch over and over again and never get tired of it?
Ice Castles, without a doubt. I've always loved that movie.
What is it that you love?
I love the ending scene where she's trying to skate and then they throw all the flowers on the ice and he's got to come out and get her. I love that movie. That is by far my favorite movie.
Man, I haven't seen that one a long time ago. The ending was the part that I always remember. That was such a
Oh,
good ending.
I cry every time, and I've seen it a zillion times, and I still cry. But just her standing there and him coming for her, right? That's what we all want. We want to have our person,
Yeah.
the person that's always there for you, no matter what. And I think that movie just is so heartwarming, and it is so beautiful. And I'll watch it and watch it and watch it.
Now, do you have a book that you feel the same way?
Um, a book that feels the same way. Very different. My favorite book is Little Women. And I loved it as a child. I love it even more as an adult. Of course, you see different things in the book than you did as a child, but just the relationship among the sisters and just the family. And I love that book. It's my absolute favorite book.
Yeah, that is a good book. Question 2. If you could only listen to one musical artist for the rest of your life, who would it be?
Brandon Lake. Do you know Brandon Lake? Are you familiar with him?
No.
Brandon Lake is a Christian pop singer, and his songwriting is like none other. His music is inspiring, and I just love everything that he does. And so it would definitely be Brandon Lake.
So, question 3. Do you have any hidden talents that you are really proud of?
Hidden talents. Believe it or not, I can embroider. I have made embroidery. I love doing it. Haven't done it in a very long time. But when I was younger, I would embroider different things for my mom. And I love to embroider. So yeah, that's a hidden talent that I have that I don't think probably anybody knows.
Have you ever done like the little tea towels?
I have. I do. I love doing those.
Oh, I have some of those that my grandmother's done. I love those.
Yes. Yes.
It's just one of those little homey kind of touches.
It is a homey kind of touch. Yes. And I like to sew as well. And don't have enough time to do it, but I do love to sew as well.
So yeah, you're just a little busy.
Just a smidgen.
Question 4. What is one guilty pleasure that you have?
Chocolate. I don't need time to think about it. It would be chocolate.
Is there a specific kind?
Dark chocolate. I've been making these little lately. They're peanut butter, kind of like peanut butter balls with dark chocolate on top. And sometimes I put sprinkles on them. I love chocolate. So yes, the way to my heart is always chocolate.
I used to say that, but since we've lived here in Germany, I mean, there's plenty of good chocolate around here, so it's not that hard to get. So I'm not craving it like I used to. But there is one thing that I crave so bad because it's kind of hard to get here.
Yes.
Kraft macaroni and cheese.
Say that because when you said that's something they crave, that is my thing. I love Kraft macaroni and cheese. In college, I made it all the time. And when my husband now, we're empty nesters. If my husband goes out of town, he's like, "Are you gonna have Kraft macaroni and cheese for dinner?" I sure am. That's I am. It's my comfort food.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's actually our thing. My husband and I, whenever we're talking about, what do you want to do for lunch? Do you want comfort food? And that's just automatically the hint that we're going to make
Yes.
macaroni and cheese.
Absolutely. There is nothing better than a good box of Kraft macaroni and cheese.
And the funny thing is, my husband's from Chile. He had never
Oh,
had Kraft macaroni and cheese until about 2 years ago. And
wow.
I found where I could
Oh,
order it by like 15 in a box here. And so every
uh-huh.
once in a while, I'll do that. And I introduced him to it. And now that's his comfort food too.
Oh, now he knows that's the best stuff.
So I was like, "Son, honey, I'm sorry. I know there's very little nutritional value in this, but it's a
But it's so
nostalgia
good.
thing for me. And it's
That's right.
good. Yeah.
And it's so good. Of
It immediately takes me back to my childhood every time I eat it.
course. Of course.
Hmm. So here's your last question. Question 5. I've been asking pretty much the same question of all of the authors this year. If you had to recommend just one author to somebody to try their books, who would it be?
Christy Woodson Harvey, without a doubt. Christy writes Lowcountry stories as well. Most of them are set in North Carolina, but I love her stories because her characters are relatable and I love her themes. She has a new book coming out, Beach House Rules, soon. It's about a mom commune, about a bunch of moms that wind up living together because they're all at a crossroads in their lives. Her books are just engaging. They have great characters, wonderful stories, and I love her books.
See, and the one thing that I love about asking that question is it just keeps adding to my to be read list.
To be read list, absolutely. She is one of my favorites, and if I could add to the list, definitely Karen White. I don't know if you're familiar. She writes Low Country as well, and she has a wonderful series set in Charleston. I love her books. On the flip side, those are like Low Country books that I enjoy, but I also like Geneva Rose. Are you familiar with Geneva Rose?
No.
Oh, she writes the best. She writes thrillers and it's called The Perfect Marriage, The Perfect Divorce. Her books are like sitting on the edge of your seat. You have to keep reading. But the other part is you have to follow her on social media. She and her husband, Drew, are absolutely hilarious. And they have two bulldogs. And I love her books just as much as I love her social media. So definitely her name's Geneva Rose. So, and she has a new book coming out as well. So those are three authors. I know the question was who is your favorite, but those are three that I
Most
really like.
very few people that I've talked to have just one that
Right.
they recommend. It's like I know I have like 3 that are like go to that every time they put something out, I buy it.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. And also I find depending on what mood I am is what I want to read. Do I want a thriller or do I want a nice low country story or it just depends
Oh
on
yeah.
what mood you're in of what you want to read.
That's like me. It's like I love cozy mysteries. That's one of my
Mhm.
favorite things. But I also like hardcore thrillers that can creep you out till you don't want to turn the light off at night.
Absolutely.
And I
And
read a
that's
lot
why
of nonfiction.
yes, same. And that's what wrote like my first series was a cozy mystery series because I enjoy cozy mysteries as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like a good cozy mystery. That's why, they have the Hallmark movie channel where they have those kind of books, like cozy
Mm-hmm.
mysteries. And I love watching that as well. So I like that. I just don't like the blood, guts, and gore. That's just, I can't do that. It's just, I'm not a big fan of that. I know it's very popular and
Mm-hmm.
especially on TV, different series. It's just not for me. I'd rather PG it with a cozy mystery rather than the guts and the gore. So, same what I write.
See, and I can go for the guts and the gore, but I have to be in the right mood for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, do you love audiobooks or are you a definite book like Kindle or book books?
I do like audiobooks. I don't tend to listen to them very often, but
Mm,
if we're going on like a road trip, I love them in the car. I don't like to read in the car. I want to listen to the audiobook in the car.
absolutely. I have found I listen to more audiobooks than I do read.
Hmm.
Just because I'm at work all day and I'll pop an audiobook in and listen as I'm working. Or when I get home, if I go to walk the dog, I'll listen to an audiobook. Or even if I'm in the house and doing chores, it's so easy to just put an audiobook in and just while you're folding the laundry or emptying the dishwasher, you get to listen to a book. And sometimes I'll have 2 or 3 different audiobooks going at the same time. And that's because, like you said, it depends on what mood I'm in, whether I want a mystery or if I want a romance. And sometimes people say, well, how can you listen to 3 different audiobooks at the same time? What, watching 3 different TV shows, right? You have different TV shows that you watch. It's the same thing, except it's a book. So I love audiobooks.
Now, do you have your books in audiobook form?
I don't. My publisher does not have the books in audiobooks. So I'm hoping down the line with my next book after this series that hopefully that I will have an audiobook.
And the one thing with that is, so many people love them, but it is so expensive for authors to put those out. And people don't realize how much money actually goes into producing one audiobook. It can be outrageously expensive.
Yes. Hopefully one day. Hopefully one day.
Now, let's go ahead and remind everybody who you are and where they can find your books.
I am Jennifer Vido, and you can find me at jennifervido.com. I am on Instagram at Jen Vido. I'm on X. I'm on TikTok. You can find me on Threads. But best place to go is my website. And I do have a blog on my website on jennifervido.com. And like I said, every Friday, I have a new column coming out. So you can check my blog to see my column appears on freshfiction.com. And it's called Jen's Jewels because every book is a gem. And I love finding new gems and new authors to showcase. So stop by my website, sign up for my newsletter, and you can find all the good things that I'm doing.
And people should go to your website just because it's a very nice website.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
And we talked a little bit about your Piper O'Donnell Socialite Mysteries, but let's go ahead and let them know what the titles are that you have in that one.
Sure. The first book is Par for the Course. The second one is Country Clubbed. And the third one is Murder by the Minutes. And Piper, she is something else. If you like golf, and if you like a country club kind of background, that series is for you.
Do you play golf?
I do. I'm not great at golf, but I do enjoy playing golf. My husband and my sons are golfers. So if I want to hang with the guys, I got to pick up some golf clubs. So I can wield a golf club. Great, but hang in there.
I am good on a driving range, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Even to go play putt-putt is not a good thing. I have shipped that sucker into the parking lot before.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm a danger.
Yeah. Truth be told, I like the outfits better than I like the golfing. So,
see, I would be the one that's like, I'll just volunteer to drive the cart.
There you go. Nothing wrong with that. Someone's got to do it.
This has been fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on Book Banter with me today.
Thank you for having me. It has been an absolute pleasure.
And as always, in the description of today's podcast, we are going to have all of your information and links to all of your social media and buy links so that people can go buy your books.
Thank you so much.
So there you have it, folks. My incredible interview with the wonderful Jennifer Vido. Be sure to go check out her website and all of her books. She has got a wonderful selection started, and I have a feeling there are going to be many more in the future. So go sign up for her mailing list so that you don't miss out on anything that she brings to you in the future. Now, next week, we actually start off with the first author in our Summer Reads suggestion episodes. We have got some great authors coming up, and we have a real mixed bag. So we have middle grade readers, we have young readers, we have young adults, we have adult books. We want to make sure that there's going to be something for everybody to take on vacation, relax, and enjoy those beach reads or camping, whatever you like to do over the summer months. And we are going to be kicking things off with a bang. We're going to be speaking with award-winning young adult fantasy author Anne Malova about her Trianid series. The book that we're talking about specifically during this interview is Slayer of Monsters, but there are 3 books in this series, and you are going to love the storyline that runs through the whole series. I have personally been loving reading this book, and I can't wait to get a review up for it on burkhartbooks.com. We have a new review page that's going to be coming up very soon because so many authors have been extremely generous and given us copies of their books whenever they come onto the podcast. So as a thank you, we're going to start a review page, and hopefully we'll be getting some of those up very soon. So be sure to keep watching for that. And of course, when we have our Book Banter magazine year-end book buying guide that we're going to drop in November again, we are going to have a few author reviews in there as well. Anything that cannot make it into the print publication, we will still have on our website at burkhartbooks.com. And as soon as I get that page created, I think it's probably just going to be /book reviews. We'll make it easy, but I'll have a link in the description of the podcast as soon as that page is up and active so that you can go find out more information about all these fantastic books by these wonderful authors that we get to talk to every week. And right now you can go to burkhartbooks.com/podcast and find all of the authors that are going to be on our show between now and the end of September. And next week, I'm going to be busy finalizing the October, November, and December shows, so you will know who is going to be coming on Book Banter with Dianne Burkhart, your book talk podcast, until the very end of this season. Wow, things have just gone so fast this year. It's been amazing. Thank you to everybody who listens to this show and shares this show and comments and downloads. You are making this all possible, and I can't wait to keep bringing you more amazing authors. But I think I'm about done right now for today, folks. I want to go grab that hot cup of tea and a good book and go enjoy this rainstorm before it ends. So you know what time it is, folks. It's time for you all to go forth and be really happy.